Hi, so I'm going to show you today a unique thing that I've done with Steam Input to get Half-Life working for me in a comfortable way with a controller layout somewhat like a more modern controller layout. Now, I've done this for Half-Life, but you can do this honestly for a lot of these older PC games that only use mouse and keyboard. Now, most of my controls are bindings that you might expect. A is jump, B toggles a crouch. I like to set X to interact and reload when those are separate, and then I set Y to pull out my most recent weapon. I won't go through all my bindings, but I'll spend my time focusing on a specific thing that I've used in this case for melee. Now, in Half-Life, you use your crowbar a lot, but a lot of times, especially later on, you're probably not going to want to have it out all the time. You're going to want to have your weapons out as you get into some of these gunfights. And so, using the traditional menu, you have to move over and click. It works, but it's a little inconvenient, especially in the midst of a gunfight. And so what I've done is I've set up my right bumper as a more sort of traditional melee like you'd find in your Halo 1 style configuration. So how did I do this? So I'm going to go over to my controller layout, and I'm going to show you what I've done, and it uses the start and release press and extra and sub command options. So first off, I set R1 to 1, which by default will take you to 1 on the menu, but it won't click. So it would be basically like what I just did. To actually pull out your crowbar, you have to click. So in this, what I've done, like I said, R1 on start press goes to 1, and then I had to add a sub command for left mouse click, which actually pulls out your crowbar. So on start press, it pulls out your crowbar. Now when you're done, of course, you're going to want to put your crowbar away and switch back to whatever weapon you most recently had. And so on release press, so when I release the right bumper, it presses Q, which is the button that automatically switches back to what you most recently had equipped. And then after that, you of course want it to swing when you press R1, but this 1 and left mouse click only press once on start press, and then of course this release press is on release press. So I had to add an extra command, both for the release press option and for my general mouse click, which is what causes the crowbar to swing while I hold it down. Now just quickly to show you how to access these things, so you can add a subcommand or an extra command by when you click the cog, when you click, it should say regular press by default. There's a bunch of options, so you'll want to select start press. Same for release press, and then if you want to add a subcommand, which basically nests a command under one that you have, you go down to subcommand, and this is useful for when I want both of these to trigger on start press. So you'll leave your default R1 regular press as left mouse click. And so that way what happens is when you press down the bumper, the first thing it does is those two commands will switch to your crowbar. Holding it clicks the left mouse, which is what's causing it to swing, and when you let go, it'll press Q, which I also have Y bound to Q, which switches to your most recent weapon. So that's a nice way to quickly and conveniently access your crowbar without having to go, dive through the menu to do so. Now, a couple things I'll note about this. So it will then set that as your most recently equipped item. So let's say you're switching between your rifle and your shotgun by default. Well, if you hold this down, yes, it's going to switch back to your rifle, but now your crowbar is your most recent equipped item. Not a big deal for me. I generally will then just switch back to what other weapon I want to toggle between. But this gives you a more modern style melee. A lot of times it'll be on the right stick, which is what I started with, but I don't find that as comfortable, which is why I put it on the bumper. And it's really helpful for when you just quickly want to pull out the crowbar to break down a box or something like that, or smack a head crab without having to dive through the menu, and it gets you right back into your weapons as quickly as possible. A couple other quick things about Half-Life. I'll just show you. I don't have the long jump module, but I did set the left bumper to control and space, which is a crouch jump, which is the long jump module. I tested that, and the training, it does work. I'm not that far in the game. And then otherwise, I've set up my right joystick to be a mouse, and then I have the gyro aiming when I have my thumb on the thumbstick because it's capacitive, of course. I like to set my sensitivity down pretty low for these mouse and keyboard games. It's a little bit more comfortable for me, and then I can fine tune with the gyro. And then otherwise, this game works pretty much out of the box. You'll just want to make sure that you set your aspect ratio to what it calls widescreen, and then you can set your resolution to 1280 by 800 or any other 16 by 10 resolution. As you'll see, even at 1280 by 800 native resolution, no FSR, I'm easily getting more than 5 hours of gameplay on this. These older games don't require a lot of power. And yeah, it works great, very comfortable, and I'm enjoying Half-Life quite a bit. So I hope you enjoy this. You can use this on a game like Half-Life, but there are a lot of these older games where it's very menu divey that you can use this trick. You could use it, for example, if you wanted right bumper to throw a grenade. You could switch it to your grenade and then click, throw, let go, and it pulls you back to your weapon that you had equipped before. So I encourage you, dive into Steam Input, try a lot of the different options they have with extra and sub commands, and also the different press types. There's a ton of things that you can do with Steam Input, especially to make these older games a lot more comfortable and playable on Steam Deck controller. So I hope you enjoy.